evening, Bahamas, coming up tonight on our news.
Evacuees arrive from islands in the southern Bahamas, and the Prime Minister is on hand to greet them.
Well, those family islanders now taking heed after a number of warnings.
As another major hurricane approaches, it turns out a lot of fixtures needed here at BPO's Clifton Pier Power Station still aren't done.
Residents here in the southern part of New Providence are bracing for Hurricane Irma.
Our news is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Vonique Tude. Topping news tonight, as powerful Hurricane Irma continues to move towards the Bahamas, a hurricane warning has been issued for the central Bahamas, according to the National Hurricane Center. That includes Cat Island, the Exumas, Long Island, Rum Cay, and San Salvador. Meanwhile, a hurricane watch has been issued for the northwestern Bahamas, including the Abacoes, Andros Island, Berry Island, Bimini, Eleuthera, Grand Bahama, and New Providence. The National Emergency Management Agency says the islands in the southeast Bahamas remain under hurricane warning. Hurricane Irma is expected to pass near the Turks and Caicos Islands and the southeast Bahamas late Thursday, with maximum sustained winds near 185 miles per hour. Those islands include Mayaguana, Inagua, Crooked Island, Ackland's Long Cay, and Ragged Island. The NHC has warned that Hurricane Irma could dump up to 20 inches of rain in isolated areas in the southern Bahamas and could trigger life-threatening flash floods. Well, hundreds of residents from the southeastern Bahamas are safely in the capital tonight, having taken seriously the evacuation warnings for Hurricane Irma. Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, leader of the opposition Philip Brave Davis, and area MPs were on hand to greet the first plane full of evacuees from Inagua. Jasmine Brown was there and filed this report.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
The old, the young, and the disabled, but most of all, the thankful, were among those who were evacuated from Inagua this morning.
This is my first time living from Inagua to come here in the hurricane. All my hurricane days, I spent it in my house on my two-town Inagua.
What made you finally make the decision now?
Well, I say, Lord, I want you to give me the right decision. I don't want to make no wrong step. So I get up that morning, I pray about it, I say, I think I better go.
Nearly 200 of those residents who took the first flight out were greeted by government and opposition officials as they exited the Bahamas Air jet. Many of them left everything behind to save their lives.
At first I didn't want to leave, but after everybody keep on calling and say come, I decided to leave. And don't think about material things.
The majority of people who evacuated were entire families, children and babies oblivious to the dangers they left behind. Sydney Delancey and Pastor Kenrick Major both say they're glad they got their families out in time.
That's the only right thing to do. Category 5, babies, gotta go.
Are you concerned about anything you may have left behind in Inagua?
All those things can be replaced. Family can't.
I got my family together and we sit down and we spoke. And it was a wise decision from the administration and the government. It was the first time I ever experienced it. You know, that the government evacuated a whole island like that before a storm. You know, I'm impressed. You know, so I'm happy just to be here. I get to be down here with my family and friends. You know, hopefully it don't come this way.
Prime Minister Minnis says he was pleased to see most residents took heed and got out early.
We've witnessed today its history. We have a monster storm coming through the Bahamas from the southern areas. We've sent out a warning to our residents, and as you can see, they accepted, and most would have volunteered to come out, most.
Dr. Minnis says there were a few hiccups in the initial stages, but NEMA has worked to clear up those issues. Now, many of those evacuees who simply have nowhere to go will end up here at the New Providence Community Center's gymnasium.
Right now, as it stands, we only have 140 cots right now in this main gymnasium. So we have a few rooms in the back that we're going to try and accommodate some more, which will probably take it up to about another, I'd say, but another 50. So we'll probably be up to about 190.
In addition to that center, evacuees will also be housed at the Kendall G. L. Isaacs Gym and Loyola Hall, all centers that have been opened just for those evacuees. This is the first time there has been an organized evacuation process, and the opposition leader commended the government for its proactive approach.
This is the first time that we have an organized evacuation process that I could recall. And in the past, we have been advising people to move to higher grounds or the safe grounds. That, in essence, is what I call a domestic evacuation. But now we're having a more extensive evacuation where we move people out of the islands altogether.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Residents of Crooked Island and Ragged Island were among those arriving in the capital today. April Sands has that.
Well, after the Prime Minister urged those residents of the southeastern islands to evacuate their homes, an influx of residents now making their way into the capital. As 30 residents of Crooked Island boarded a Sky Bahamas flight bound for New Providence this morning, a Bahamas Air jet touched down at Lynden Pindling International Airport, bringing a group of Ragged Island residents who decided to flee the southern island ahead of what has been described as monster Hurricane Irma. Clarice Wood had barely made it out of LPIA's domestic terminal when she broke down into tears. She told reporters she fears this could be the last time she may see her home in the condition she left it.
Just feeling so emotional, leaving some behind and not knowing what will happen. So,
just a few feet away from Woods, Demison and Nesbitt sat in a wheelchair with one crutch in his lap. He and other Ragged Island residents say they were up since 3 a.m. gathering their belongings and securing their homes.
I keep money up because I don't think those houses on Ragged Island, I don't think they can withstand this.
And do you have any family?
Yeah.
Your family came, all of your family came as well. How do you feel leaving most of your possessions behind with such a dangerous storm coming? A lot of people say it doesn't matter, they'd rather save their own lives.
Boy, that's true. I mean, life-wise, materials afterwards.
Robert Buhrum, who is a teacher on Ragged Island, decided to flee with his wife and their small children. He says they were happy to get out early, noting life is far more precious than belongings.
I'm feeling great because life is more important than material stuff. Whatever is there, we can always get back. But our life is paramount. We have to secure that at first.
56 people live on Ragged Island. 30 of them made the decision to evacuate. Those residents say while they are happy they decided to leave, they fear for their friends and relatives who have chosen to stay behind. Along with Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis, who greeted residents as they exited the aircraft. Member of Parliament for Exuma and Ragged Island Chester Cooper was also on hand. He said he is relieved that many of them decided to weather the storm in the capital.
I'm delighted that most of the people from Ragged Island have taken the option of evacuating or taken the Prime Minister's advice and caution. We have a crew of about 30 persons coming in from Ragged Island at the moment. There are a few who opted to stay on the island. There's another flight leaving this afternoon at about 3 o'clock. They have an additional 8 persons. So by and large, people are taking it very seriously, and I'm happy to see that. And I'll be here to meet the folks from Ragged Island who've come in today, hopefully for safer shelter here in Nassau. This is a very serious hurricane. I would urge everyone to leave. There is an elderly captain who has indicated that he has rode out all the storms before. But, you know, this is the type of storm, Cat 5 at 185 miles per hour, that we've never seen before in the Bahamas, and certainly not in Ragged Island. So there's still an opportunity to leave at 3 o'clock this afternoon. I would encourage him to get on the flight, and anyone else who believes that it's safe to ride out the storm in Ragged Island.
The National Emergency Management Agency estimates that between 1,500 and 1,800 people will be transported to New Providence today. Reporting for our news, I'm April Sands.
Those living in the southern Bahamas will have their electricity supply turned off tomorrow until further notice. This as Hurricane Irma aims for those islands under evacuation. Meanwhile, here in Nassau, Bahamas Power and Light is trying to avoid a crisis of its own. Kyle Joaquin tells us more.
Come tomorrow, everyone living in Mayagüana, Crooked Island, Acklands, Inagua, Long Key, and Ragged Island will have their power supply turned off as BPL employees have been ordered to evacuate and not return until an all clear is given.
These employees will be the last to leave, securing BPL's equipment and taking down the grids before they leave. Furthermore, these employees will be the first to return to the islands to assess the status of BPL's transmission and generation infrastructure and ensure operations are safe to resume.
And depending on the damage, there is no telling how long it could be before any power is restored to those islands. And unlike the voluntary evacuation urged by the government, this one for BPL employees and their family is mandatory.
Once our people will shut the generators down, so once that's done, they leave and there's no further power to those islands.
Again, the call has gone out for those in Michael and Ragged Island to evacuate as soon as possible. It's been 11 months since Hurricane Matthew, and as another storm approaches, it turns out a lot of much-needed repairs to BPL's Clifton Pier Power Station still aren't done. But today, BPL CEO said not to worry.
So I think while the roof of a couple of buildings could have been done better, overall the substance of the plant is in better shape than it's been in a long, long time.
As BPL preps for Irma, a storm leaving nothing but destruction behind, we're now learning that many of the problems caused by Hurricane Matthew last October at the company's Clifton Pier Power Station have been left unresolved. BPL's new CEO, in writing to the company's board, expressed that he met a company that is unmotivated, complacent, and lackadaisical. And in a press conference today, the board's new chairman, Donald Osborne, revealed that she and the new board were left disappointed with what they've met.
I've worked a long time and I've coached a lot of sports teams, and every game you learn to do after the game, a post-mortem, and there's usually something you have disappointment about. So yeah, I am disappointed that we don't have some things done, but that's the real world, and so what we're planning to do is go forth with the board to do the very best job possible.
So what exactly is wrong at the power station? According to Harold, roofing. He acknowledged that the plant's roofing could have been done much better. Bahamas Electrical Workers Union President Paul Maynard on Monday warned that BPL could be in trouble if flooding occurs at the power station. However, the CEO insists things at Clifton are set for Irma.
We feel confident, you never know for sure, but that the plant is going to run fine. We'll do some things in the next couple of days to ensure that the leaks are maintained at the lowest possible level. Hopefully no leak, but you never know when a storm hits like Irma.
Clifton provides 60% of power for New Providence. The remainder is provided by the Blue Hills Power Plant.
Clifton is our most important power plant, and so we will give it every attention to make sure that it's protected. We're working on that now to make sure that everything practical can be done to ensure that it's protected.
Meantime, BPL is also conducting a tree trimming exercise throughout New Providence. For our news, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Residents in the southern part of New Providence are praying for the best but expecting the worst in terms of Hurricane Irma, especially because many of them have not been able to put back the pieces since Hurricane Matthew. Giorgio Bain reports.
As residents here in the southern part of New Providence are preparing for Hurricane Irma, some have not bounced back from the effects of Hurricane Matthew.
Let the Holy Ghost fall on me.
When our news visited the Miracle Faith Praying Station just a few days after the passage of Hurricane Matthew, the entire back wall of the church had been pushed in by rising storm floods. Today, Apostle L. Cam says not much has changed at the church.
So we're just going to put up some fresh wood just to cover that area. Yeah, like I said, we were supposed to have been much further with the building process than this. But however, to God be the glory, Irma has not given us enough time to do that, so we're just going to do what is necessary to secure back here.
The church still has major roof damage, no carpet, damaged windows, and chairs that were rusted from the seawater. But according to Apostle Camp, the members have not lost their faith.
We're praying that the Lord spares us again, because I don't think we could take another blow. We can't take another blow.
Another Marshall Road resident who identified herself as Charlene recalled living in terror as she did not heed warnings to evacuate her home. Charlene's yard is still filled with destroyed furniture, toilets, and clothing.
We had to go in the ceiling. We had to put the ladder in the house, and then the back door burst open. We had to try to, couple us up to stand up to the door to push it. You know, we had the fridge, the stove, everything was in the water.
As she prepares for powerful Irma, Charlene says she still hasn't been able to replace anything she lost from Matthew.
We have new furniture, new everything, all them get destroyed. So now, we one old stand, you have a couple stuff on that, all on the city. I pack up the garbage bag and put them high. And I only living on prayer right now. I pray and my daughter in the ceiling now, putting up some stuff. You know, so I just say, God, we could go through this again. You know, only thing we could do now is pray now.
Over in South Beach, Anthony Marsh, who evacuated his home before Matthew, said he returned to pure devastation.
At this time, people in the process are still trying to get their places together. I can show you from here whereby people right now trying to save what they have with just putting 2 pieces of plywood over a window. And it was devastating in the back here. That's why I didn't stay. And when I came back home, I had 4 feet of water in the home. And some places it left its mark. I lost TV, all the stuff that were inside. And it was disaster in the back here.
Meanwhile, Newell McPhee says he's still feeling the embarrassment of forcing his family to stay in their home during Matthew. So he'll be sure to batten up and evacuate this time around.
It would have been like an ordinary storm, you know, winning. And come to find out, I encouraged my son and my wife to stay. And the water, at least the water was out here, was more than 10 feet. And, you know, I felt guilty knowing that through me causing them to stay. And, you know, it was rough. I would advise everybody on the waterline really to move out.
And last year, our news made multiple visits to Ronald Woodside, who told us that he wouldn't be evacuating his home and that persons in South Beach were one of the safest.
Well, the reason why we stay is because I get a better idea about hurricane than most of these meteorology people who think they know what they're saying, but they don't know nothing what they're saying about hurricane.
Today, Woodside recalled Matthew and told us his plans for Irma.
Just watch it rise right up. It hit the glass door, it beat on it for a while. We couldn't get it to come down, so after a while we beat on it for so long, the glass then pop out. They didn't break, but they pop out. So that's when the water come in, sweep through the next door, and kick down the front door, and all the furniture and everything starts sweeping out. But everything's secure this time, though. I mean, I would have ride it out here again myself with my family. They really can't take it. But I could take it, but I could leave this time along with them.
Reporting for our news, I'm Georgia Bain.
The Ministry of Education has advised that all public schools throughout the country have closed until further notice. After initially announcing yesterday that public schools in the Southern Islands would be closed, officials made the decision today to close all public schools as of 3 p.m. based on advice from the Met Office. The ministry said it would keep parents informed through its social media platforms and its website, ministryofeducationbahamas.com. Meanwhile, here in New Providence, Cabinet Office announced the closure of all government offices except for essential services at 5 p.m. today until further notice. Still to come on our news, a look at the Grand Hyatt's evacuation plan, plus how Irma could impact the Bahamas' economy. So stay with us.